one, go.
Go. Go. Don't go.
This is Big Boy Talk, episode 13.
Yes.
That's really cool. It's January, and
13.
yeah, unlucky number. It's January, and we thought about doing a series for the first time about priorities, and we're gonna start with taking a loan for a house versus going on vacation, or how would you phrase it?
I would phrase it like this. Which are the things that you should put your money in with priority? In investing, putting your money in a bigger, nicer home, or in new experiences like traveling in different places and experiencing other cultures.
But that makes it sound like you have a lot of money. Where do you put it?
Oh, no.
So
this is
putting your monthly income, into what?
Yes,
Going on holiday or getting a house?
We're not talking about the ideal situation when you have enough money to get a big house and then spend it on nice vacations. No, we're talking about an average person that has to choose: am I going to live in a smaller place or save up more just to have those experiences, or I'll have smaller experiences, or I'll go to more familiar places, cheaper places, or way closer to home places, so I could afford more comfortable, more, I don't know,
so
big
I could
house.
direct more money to paying off the house or
Improving
better
it.
furniture or
Yes.
things like that. Yeah, and we're in. So our choices on this subject are pretty different, and we could go through the arguments a bit. You have a house and have a loan for it, and I'm renting since I got married 5 or 6 years ago, and moving around a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, 2 or 3 times, which is not ideal in any way, and one of my main arguments is it doesn't really make sense to me to get a loan for a really large sum of money. Like, thinking of my income, which is a pretty good one, 60,000 euros doesn't sound like something that I want to owe someone, a bank or a person. It gets down to a contract anyway, and I'm not getting a loan from somebody who will care if I get hurt or if I won't be able to pay.
This is because your landlord really cares about you now.
So nobody cares. That's for certain.
So, okay, I have a loan, I have an apartment, not a house, but I don't really recommend doing the thing that I did, but at some point it's math. So you have to choose: do I spend the same amount of money on my rent or on my own house? Yes, you have to consider things like the fridge, the heating system, the taxes, or the income taxes or the property taxes that you have in your country that come along when you own the place. So in the long run, in 30 years, maybe you end up spending 30,000 euros more just adding those things up. But if the math, it's okay, I think it's a viable option to spend a good part of your income to have a house, to have your own place. But it's not really a thing that I would say, okay, you should do whatever it takes, just own a house.
Yeah.
Or don't, I think, Gordon, what is the percentage that Ramsey tells us that it's
It's wise to spend on
spend
your
on
house.
your-
I
on your
think
house.
it's 25%.
at maximum?
Yeah.
The maximum. So if you spend on your
Gordon
home,
Ramsay.
no, I said Gordon Ramsay first. Yeah. Dave Ramsey, yeah. In my head, Gordon Ramsay does different things than Dave Ramsey. So, if you know Dave Ramsey, it's a different person than Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, Dave Ramsey is a financial advisor. Gordon Ramsay will tell you that you're stupid
It's a good.
for doing anything.
So, Dave Ramsey tells you that
You shouldn't go
You
above
shouldn't go-
25% for your house.
for your house, even renting or
Yeah.
mortgage. So, if you're below that, and if you're at about 15%, you're good either way.
Okay. Yeah.
Even he recommends buying a house
Mm-hmm.
at some point. If you get, he recommends having a bigger part as
Yeah, having all of the money that you need, or having a really big advance on
Yes.
it, like at least 30% or
Yes.
something like that.
and if you do that, it's okay to have house. But
Yeah.
the idea is we're talking about priorities.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the luxury to have both, but you can spend too much on when you are loaning or when you are staying like you are. You can stay in a big place or
When you're
small.
renting?
Renting, yeah.
Okay.
My brain is still not switched to English quite yet. So, if you're renting a bigger place than you need, or you have the option of renting a smaller place,
Okay.
and then with the rest of your money put it in experiences or
Okay.
trying to get something more from your money than just comfort of the home.
And I thinking about that, you could say that the money you have left over for experiences is roughly in the same amount, because at least where we live, renting is really close to your monthly mortgage payment. But I would argue that it's about mindset too. Knowing that I don't have a 30-year or 15-year loan maybe gives me more ease about going on vacation.
Does it really?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because I'm in my own skin.
Yes.
I've never had a huge loan. You're in your own skin, and you can say,
You get
I
used to
can relax on vacation.
get
Yes,
used to
yeah. And yeah, it's not hard for me to believe that you can get used to it, because the human mind is capable of adapting in the worst of situations. But I would say that you are a bit more relaxed just by talking to people. And one of the other arguments that I have for me and that I use in this conversation about priorities is I think a big loan is a burden on you, and it impacts, maybe in a small or unconscious way, your decisions. I mean, when you go to work and you know you have a big loan, maybe you're not as likely to think like a free man, let's say. Maybe you will ask, okay, should I really express my opinion? Should I really risk upsetting the boss because I have a big loan? Or should I not? And maybe at that point, if you're renting, you say, okay,
What are your options if you're renting and the rent is the same amount as the mortgage?
well, the argument is that you can always
Downsize.
easily downsize, yeah. And but that is a theoretical argument, because
Are you
That's
willing
not really
to?
an option.
Are you
in my
really
mind.
willing to go to one bedroom?
Yeah, I would if necessary, but
Would you risk your job, like telling your mind?
Yeah,
Just
I
for
wouldn't be reckless about it, that's for sure. And in the end, even for you or somebody who has a big loan, there are options to downsize or to move. I mean,
Yes.
it wouldn't be the end of the world, but there is a more relaxed way of thinking in my mind if you don't have the burden of a loan on your back.
On the other hand, uh, I'm not an advocate for getting loans.
Okay.
Not by far. I've been a victim these last 10 years. But at some point, if you get a good loan and you have your own place, it helps you get this off your mind. Because at some point you would want to buy a home for you, for you and your family. And if you want to do this, you have to save money. And every time you want to go to visit China, for example, you say, okay, these are 2,000 euros that I can spend on this vacation, or add to my savings, so I would buy a nice home for myself and my family. So at some point, for me, I have 2,000 euros for this. Do I visit China or not? What can I do with this money? Okay, I have a lot of things I can do, but can it help me? Can those money help me get a better deal on my house? No. I don't pay the bank extra 2,000 euros just because I want to have a smaller debt. No. I say, okay, I'm okay with the regular amount.
Okay.
So for me, at some point, it's way easier to make the decision because the house is out of the question, out of sight, out of mind.
Okay.
So this is something usual. But if you don't have the home, those money that you are saving are on your mind, and every money you spend, you say, okay, can I do something better with this money? Yeah, because at some point you want to get that house. Is it better or not? I have no idea.
You lost me at some point. So say that again. So you started with, I'm not gonna spend these 2,000 euros on my loan because it doesn't make that much of a difference.
So I'm going to have that experience.
Okay.
I'll go to China.
Okay.
But if I don't have the home, it's always a hard choice for me.
So if I'm renting?
If I'm renting, yes. Do I put these 2,000 euros in my saving account
So that someday I'll
that
have a big advance on a house?
on a house, or do I spend it now and get that experience? And so I think for the person that owns the house already, it's a way easier decision because the big decision is already made.
Okay.
Okay, the house is bought, that's it. We'll manage from now on. But if you didn't make that decision and you want to make it in the future, you always have the choice. What do I do with this money? Do I save it or do I spend it in a way that it doesn't get me anything more than an experience?
Yeah. We were talking about this before, that you can say, okay, I'm gonna save for a house, or I'm gonna save so that I can pay the mortgage that I already have. And we were saying that it really depends on the timeline that you set, because if you say I'm gonna sacrifice for 5 years or 10 years, that's not very realistic. People don't really go for that long, being motivated and happy about it. But if you, hopefully for me, I'm starting, this year is the year that we're really starting to have a real plan for getting an advance for a house or for an apartment. And I think if you set it for a year and a half to 3 years, maybe is the most, it's maybe realistic to say, okay, we're gonna downsize the vacations that we're gonna take, but it's not gonna be forever. It's gonna be for 2 or 3 years, let's say, and then things will be easier regarding a house.
True.
And I haven't experienced that, but theoretically it sounds pretty good. Practically, we had pretty nice vacations recently, so we're gonna be thinking about those a lot. So I'll let you know how that goes. But yeah, we've reached a point, and we were talking about this too. After you travel and you prioritize experiences for a few years, you get to the point where you say, where am I and where am I gonna be in 5 years? And you start wishing that you have a place of your own. Especially a woman needs to make that place nice, and that costs money. And yeah, we can say especially men want to make the woman happy. So
Yes.
the direction is towards a nest, as you were saying, and one that looks nice and that you can feel good inside of. Yeah. And we were also talking about how people in Switzerland are renting a lot.
But
Before that,
yes, no, it's connected, because is the thing. Sometimes you think about the things that you leave behind.
okay,
You leave to your children some house or some apartments, or you leave them with the experiences. You take them all around the globe, and you teach them to enjoy life and enjoy different things.
or you, in a way, give them the experience of having a parent who traveled a lot and who has those benefits.
Yes.
Of traveling a lot.
And it's for me, I'm trying to do both. Because it's fun for me to travel, it's fun for me to have different experiences, it's fun for me to present my children with this idea of experience the world and see it, know better. But at some point I know that when they're old enough to be in college,
Okay.
for them a place to have of their own, a small place, but just to be their own, it's a big difference. It makes a big difference here in our country. So they wouldn't have to be stressed and get other jobs
Yeah.
just to pay rent and food. I think a good option would be, okay, during college I'll support the rent.
Yeah.
This could be an alternative idea, but it still
Not
puts a big
ideal.
yeah, for me I think it puts a big pressure on the kid. Okay, this is a big investment from my parents, I should do something with this. It doesn't give him the freedom, or them the freedom to do what and pursue what they want to do. But and for me, leaving them a small apartment just so they have this small comfort
Yeah.
they can rely on, and they don't have to get that job just to pay rent, would be a good thing that to leave behind.
Yeah, yeah. It lets them focus on school and things that they have to focus on for the future, and not really worry about it. Yeah, I agree. That would be a big advantage they would have on other kids who would have to work and worry about the other things. Okay, and getting back to, we didn't really reach a conclusion on the Switzerland thing. So it's a thing that really fascinates me, how 70% I think of the people are renting. In our country, the latest thing I read is that 90% of properties are owned. So that
I
there's
think
a really
100% of the property.
yeah, 90% of people are owners or have debt in order to own. And yeah, the laws are different. The renters in Switzerland are protecting the nearly impossible to evict. And last year I've talked to people that live there. On the other hand, it's way more expensive to buy an apartment proportionally to the income. But they must know something that we don't know.
I think that's another thing that we didn't discuss. Is the growing neighborhoods that we have.
Okay.
This leaves you with enough room to sell a lot. So in Romania, they sell a lot of the new apartments. They don't want to rent them because it's quite easy money. If you get from the bank or from the person in cash, you get the money, and you're done. You know your profits, you know everything.
As the person
As
who builds
the builder, yes. If you rent, you have to have a long-term mindset.
Yeah.
And our country is still developing, and when you have a developing country that doesn't have really good stability, but it's still growing, it's easier to get the money now and worry about other things later than to have a 20-year business plan. So people don't tend to do businesses like this because you don't have the stability to have that Switzerland has, and they have the limited the law that limit the traveling. You can't go like Germany. If you're from Romania, you can go and work in Switzerland in some conditions. They don't accept everyone. So if they accept, they have a quite strict policy. So they have a fixed number that lives there. So they're not building 10 new neighborhoods.
Okay.
So people that live there have options, quite limited options of buying.
Okay.
Because it's expensive and they're not growing like we are now. Maybe in 20 years we'll be like that too. So
yeah, that's interesting. So it's about the demand for houses, which is stable, and also about, that was an interesting point, about the maturity of the consumer, you could say, and the reliability that you have as an owner. Okay, that's interesting. Weird
subject, because usually people tend to advocate for their own options.
Yeah.
If you like traveling, you tend to say it is a better option than the other one. If you don't enjoy that much traveling, you can have a bad experience. You can go to Rome and visit everything, and after I have a good friend that I think 4 years ago this happened to him. They visited, and when they were going to the airport in the subway, someone stole their wallet, and they had to go to the consulate. They had to stay another day or two. A lot of costs. And after, if this happens to you, when people ask you how was Rome, I wouldn't go there again. If you don't really enjoy traveling, or you had bad experiences, it's easier to go with the other option.
Yeah. And also with having a mortgage, you could buy at the worst possible time and get burned that way. So there's extremes and there's bad experiences both ways. But in the end, it's about
keeping a balance.
Makes sense for you. Keeping a balance and what makes sense for you at that point in time, considering that you will carry over the consequences. I mean, when we talk again in 20 years, things will be definitely different. You will have a house, I maybe won't, and it's about what you value at that point.
Yes.
Okay, so big subject, and
very enthusiastic. Big subject.
No, we could. It's another one that we could get back to, and we're gonna keep talking about priorities. So have a good day. See you next time.
next time.